Right, hello, and welcome to the next episode of Gym Rants. This is not going to be like a traditional rant where I have a topic and then I basically give my opinion. Either it's like approval or criticizing it, but it's more going to be like a conversation. So, as you might know, that I have been to Vietnam for a month in the recent months. And there I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people and go to a couple of gyms and basically see how the gym culture is in Vietnam, what to expect in terms of nutritioning, in terms of fitness centers, in terms of equipment, people, and the general culture. So it really depends when you go to a different country, how people behave in the gyms and how they communicate, or whether they communicate or not. So this video is more about talking in Vietnam in general and talking about sports. So, to begin with, first I went to Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh, in my opinion, is more like a touristic city. It's not the capital, but it has the capital feeling to it. The population is really young, and you have people outside the whole time, going to coffee shops and everything. So there I more had the opportunity to just explore around the city. And since in that 1 week I was working as well, I didn't have the time to go to multiple gyms, but I had the opportunity to just go to one. It was a really fancy place actually called Gym Bro. The entrance fee on a daily basis was 170,000 dongs, which, don't get me wrong, probably it's like 7 to 8 euros to enter. And it's pretty clean. And this is something that I noticed in most Vietnam gyms, that they give you free towels. You don't have that so much in Europe, and people usually come to you in European gyms and ask you to use a towel if you don't use it. So they expect you to have it, or you can buy it through either vending machines or through the reception for a given amount of money, obviously. But here it's free, and that was really nice, and the reception was also really nice. And there I usually did bench and deadlift, and they had different equipment. And in Vietnam, what I noticed is that they have the seated row and the lat pull down in the same equipment, which I shared a couple of pictures of. I think it's really practical, but I don't see this happening in Europe because these two equipments are the most overpopulated next to the cables, obviously. So having them be in one machine, it's just going to make it even more crazy. So one guy is going to take it for like 20 minutes, and then it's just going to be frustrating for a lot of people. So I see why it's not happening. The gym was not crowded. And what I noticed in that gym, and generally in Ho Chi Minh, after also talking with a close friend of mine, that's a local there, he mentioned that the personal training culture is really strong in Vietnam. I think that's one thing that is contrary to European gyms, is that within European gyms, you do not see personal training so often, in my opinion. In terms of private classes, yes, you have it, but not that everyone works with a trainer. And in that gym in Ho Chi Minh, that's what I mostly realized, that a lot of people are working with trainers. You had about 3 or 4 trainers in the gym, and they were all booked out with teaching people various things, obviously. It was mostly core and plyometrics, I would say. But yeah, so that's the positive side of the gym. It was not crowded. It was really practical. The towel was fully free. It was really clean. The negative is going to be in that gym that the weights are definitely not calibrated. So I took one of the 20s to a scale, and it showed up as something like 17.8. So the more weights pile up, it just means that actually you're doing less, and it's kind of an illusion in the sense of, oh, you think I did 220 bench. No, it's more like 200, I would say. So that's one problem. in that gym that the weights are definitely not calibrated, but everything else was pretty fine. And then I moved on to Hoi An. Hoi An was a bit more on the touristic side of the things, and that comes with positives and negatives. In my opinion, in terms of gym, it comes with positives because you have more access to food that is more targeted towards the European or American crowd, which goes to the gym more often and which prefers more protein-based food. So you have more fit food options, you know, it's like chicken and rice, ground beef and rice, rather than traditional Vietnamese food, which that's a whole different conversation. I'm more of a fan of eating traditional food when I go somewhere rather than just eating, let's say, Western or food where I'm from. It just doesn't make sense to me, but to each their own, I guess. But you wouldn't see me going to Vietnam to eat McDonald's, obviously. So that's a different topic, but you had more access to food that you would rather have after working out. And that was great. It was more of a touristic area. There I had the chance to go to two gyms. One was from a Thai guy who actually was the bodybuilding champion in the recent years. He was a really nice guy. I had the chance to talk to him and get to know him and ask about the Vietnamese culture. And he kind of confirmed also my beliefs. He said, gym is not so big in Vietnam as of now, and that's also what I noticed. In the younger population, coming to the gym is not so popular, and for those that go to the gym, it's more or less how you would expect someone that just starts without proper guidance to go to the gym. So it's just doing whatever you want to do in the gym without any proper structure. And within the older population, they do sports. They do sports a lot, but it's more like going to the park to walk, to stretch, and you see these machines out in the parks where some European and I also notice it a lot in Istanbul. Some cities have it. It's like this public equipment that you can do. So it's just like small dips, pull-ups, just pulling yourself up or pushing the things up or doing like dips, cycling. So you have more public access to these equipment and older generation usually prefer to do that. And you don't see a lot of people in the gym, especially locals. That's what I noticed in especially Hoi An, since it's a more or less touristic area. What I noticed was that the gyms are really packed with Europeans, Americans, and Australians, and you have only like 20% of the gym being actual Vietnamese people. And there I went to two gyms, as I said, in Hoi An. Both were only 50,000 to enter, so it's like 1.5 to 2 euros. The gyms were basically what you expect to get for 1.5 to 2 euros. It was definitely less fancy than the one in Ho Chi Minh, but they had a good character to them. So one was right on the side of the road. It felt like a gas station. It was definitely on the dirtier side of the things, but it was more of an underground vibe to it as well, with like fans everywhere and rusty plates, rusty dumbbells. The air was a bit more, let's say, stiff. And that place was crowded, more with Vietnamese people. And that's what I noticed is that the cheaper the gym gets, so the cheaper the gym gets, the more Vietnamese people you have, and the more expensive it gets, the more Westerners you have in a gym or Australians. It can be economical reasons, or it can just be how the culture works there. Because cheaper gyms are more targeted towards locals with the trainers or with the equipment or with the locations and everything. So there you have more the local crowd. But since the daily fees, like when daily fees start increasing, then you start seeing more Europeans and the service also starts changing. Because with the cheaper ones, for example, the ones that I went in Hoi An, the gas station looking one on the side of the road, and the traditional bodybuilding gym from the Thai guy. It's basically you just enter, give your money, and then that's it. You give cash, and then that's it. And they give you towels. Obviously, I got towels in both those gyms as well. So it's three gyms in a row where I got towels. And they were really nice, but the more or less the environment is in Vietnamese gyms, what I noticed, if it's not targeted more towards Europeans, is that give your money, don't talk to anyone, just do your workout. If you need personal training, there's personal training, but everyone keeps it to themselves. Within the Vietnamese crowd, contrary to European crowd, where I interact with people a lot and have long conversations in the gym, none. So no one came to me to have a conversation with me or just like discuss things or just small chit chat. No, the only people that I actually had the conversation with was the Western crowd. And probably it also has to do with how the gym culture is in Europe and US, and also has to do with since you're in a foreign country in Asia, when you see someone that is not Asian, I don't know, it's just this touristic mindset, I think, just clicking in and people start to talk with each other. So that was Hoi An. And from Hoi An, we moved into Hanoi. And in Hanoi, I experienced the most gyms because that's where I spend the most time. And here things took a bit of a turn. So I will also describe this as from a touristic experience, obviously. So from Ho Chi Minh, the more touristic, but more like business side of the things, more like corporate side of the things, private business side of the things. We went into Hoi An, where it's all about tourism, completely about tourism. Then we went to Ho Chi Minh, where it's more about government jobs. So the first thing that you notice with the population is that the degree to people speaking English falls drastically down. So you most of the times you cannot communicate with people if you do not speak Vietnamese, obviously. And what happened there most of the time was that when I went to pay, and preferably with cards, it was not possible. So it was mostly bank transfer or cash. And it was more or less people just putting Google Translate on your face and saying, what do you need? The culture stays the same, people keeping to themselves and everything. But here I went to five gyms. One was called Club Gym. The entrance was the cheapest with 30,000, and it was completely full with locals. And the environment was intense. Some of you might remember from the video that I shared, but the environment is really intense in those cheaper, more local gyms because it's just shouting. It's like people working out with a t-shirt, and it was the only gym where they didn't give me a towel. It was pretty intense in terms of like people shouting at each other. The owner was really vocal to people that came there, except for me, probably because I was not local and we couldn't understand each other. So it was really crammed up. You had like 720 plates, so you couldn't really put it equally on a bar, and the weights were really different, so it was not calibrated. But so these are the local gyms. It has more or less character to it, but that character comes with also the negative of what you would expect from an underground gym. And then we went on to a gym where the entrance was actually quite expensive with 340,000. So it's coming closer to European ranges, actually. I think it's like 10 euros, if I'm not wrong. But there, everything was top notch. It was really clean. The weights felt calibrated. They offered more. They gave you an energy drink, they gave you a towel, they gave you water, and at the end of the workout, you were free to get a protein shake from them, which is crazy. I think this should be integrated to Europe more because I think it's an amazing service that you can sell, and I think it's an amazing thing to have access to, like a protein drink right after your workout. They make it and then they give it to you. And the people are really nice. You get to talk a lot with the reception. You get to meet them. They're also fellow sports people, and the crowd is more European. So I had the opportunity to meet with more people, but you also had the more powerlifting enthusiasts locally in that gym. So the separation is cheaper. It is the more local bodybuilding type of people or just casuals. The more expensive it gets, you have more Westerners, and from the locals, you have more the experienced or more specific lifters, so power lifters and bodybuilders, I would say, but mostly power lifters. And that needs access to more calibrated equipment and more, let's say, better equipment, let's say. And so these were some of the gyms that I went. There were others. Those others were pretty much casual, same as the others, so I'm not going to dig deep into them. And then the last gym that I went on my last day was a gym for 40,000. It was the second cheapest gym, but in my opinion, it was the best gym. It was huge. It was gigantic. You had like five or six of the same equipment. So definitely no waiting for anyone. It was equally crowded, but it was not suffocating. You had leather belts all over the place that they gave to you. They gave you a towel, and for that price, it's amazing service. You're also free to use the showers. You have calibrated plates, you have racks, you have a lot of bars and everything. So that gym was for sure my favorite in Hanoi. Not just in Hanoi, I think completely in Vietnam. And my least favorite has to be the cheapest gym where it's really everything is packed and you feel like you're suffocating, but still that has character to it as well. So to conclude my Vietnam journey, one thing is that nutrition is a bit difficult. Of course, there are a lot of restaurants that you can go and eat, but if you're someone that really focuses on their macros and like calorie intake, then it will be a bit difficult for you to manage. That's for sure one thing, but it's also a vacation for me, and in vacation it's usually difficult because you're going out of your routine. So from a nutritioning standpoint, that's difficult, and I think that's why I really like the gym that offered protein shakes, because it helped a lot. And from a lifting standpoint, it's definitely to be expected, but the more you pay, the more high quality service you receive. But then again, the best gym, in my opinion, was the second cheapest one. So to each their own. But if you're someone that needs a lot of plates, but not necessarily top-notch equipment in terms of really new equipment, and like you don't care about cleanliness so much, let's say, and you're not someone that needs a lot of conversation with people, you mostly keep to yourself, then within cheaper gyms you also wouldn't mind. But where the separation is definitely is that if you need higher plates, if you need more calibrated stuff, if you go with a specific program and you need more or less the same machines on a weekly basis, then it might be difficult. Then you might specifically need to go to one or two gyms. And why I went to multiple was that so I can get to know people, get to know the culture, see how they're doing it there, and just experience more. But if I go tomorrow again, depends on where I go. If it's Hanoi, for example, I'm definitely going to the gym where I paid just 40,000, the gigantic one, because that was the best experience for me. So it really depends on the type of person that you are and what you like doing in a gym and what you expect from a gym. But definitely there is a gym for you in Vietnam. There also was a powerlifting one, but I didn't go there because I don't need to. And that's going to be the concluding sentence, is that you just need to search and search a lot to find the one that best suits you. it took me the eighth time to see, okay, this is the gym that I like. I would actually go here if I were to live in Vietnam. So it's just experiencing, seeing every gym offers something else, a different culture to it. And yeah, that will be the end of this episode. It was just more or less me just discussing about my trips and just explaining how Vietnam was. And it's a cheap country. It's a really cheap country. You can eat a lot, you can taste different things, you can experience a lot, and same goes for gyms. They really are marketing the gyms towards more the Western crowd. As I said, the locals either go to this underground bodybuilding type of place or they just do their cardio or stretching outside. So weights are not popular among the locals. And that's why when you go to a gym, you really notice that 80% of the time it's targeted towards Europeans and Westerners, which depends on who you are, can be a great thing, can be a bad thing. But yeah. So I'll see you on the next episode. I'm planning to have the next episode more about wrestling and my transition into professional wrestling and how the training coincides with what I'm currently doing, what's difficult, what's easy, and that will be about it. So feel free to contact me on Instagram, on the comments, and I'll talk to you guys later again.